All right, so the CARP repeater system consists of the Mile High site, which is up at Mile High, which is near Meadow Lakes, east of Fresno. We have right now only 3 repeaters because one of them's off the air. We have the 147675 analog machine, the 146865 analog machine, which is currently off the air. The 444725 VHF machine, which is currently in analog or mixed mode analog in C4FM fusion. And then we have another analog 220 machine at 224.380. We moved all those to the Mile High site back in 2004. The photo there is a picture, an aerial photo that me and Travis W6TRP took a picture of flying over the area a couple of years ago. So there's a few less trees than that, but
yeah, actually missing one repeat.
not at the Mile High site.
No, this is down on Clovis Water Tower.
That is correct. That's why, but we're talking about the Mile High site, Steve.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So anyway, so the Mile High site back in 2004. So here's a map of the area that shows can you guys see my mouse cursor?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So up here in the upper right hand corner, up near Auberry, you can see the Mile High site, which is what's more northeast of Clovis. And then downtown, we got the Clovis Water Tower downtown. So those are our 2 sites in the area. There is a picture that I took Thursday. I was at the site Thursday. So we have a little bit of snow up there of the site. Here's a picture inside the building. Right now it's kind of sparse. We're only us and Vincent Communications is in the building at this time. So there's our 3.
I take it we have to rent that or pay rent or something to that effect?
It is donated to us.
Oh, cool.
Space is donated to us.
Good.
That's cool. Because some of the commercial sites, even for hams, are wanting buku bucks now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're lucky, but we do a lot of maintenance on the site for the owner. So we kind of pay our way. if you
makes sense.
Say.
Good trade-off.
So there's our 3 equipment racks we have in there with our repeater stuff. Over the years, we've kind of upgraded to smaller equipment and consolidated space. So technically, I think we can probably consolidate down to 2 racks if we needed to be. But right now, with the amount of space we have in there, I think we'll stick with the 3. So here is the 2-meter repeater, the 147675 machine. It's a Yaesu DR1X. Repeater. There's a repeater in the cans or duplexers. Here is a line of sight map. So this gives you the general coverage area of the repeater. We're putting out about 20 watts. We have a tailwave 4-bay antenna. Again, it's analog 147675. And our coverage is from about Stockton to Bakersfield. Again, there's places that are spotty just due to the nature of RF and line of sight. But generally speaking, anywhere in that green area, you should have access to the repeater. Unless there's a tree or a building or a truck in the way. There's a picture of the 220 machine. It's an older ICOM repeater. So I forget what model it is. It's an ICRP220, I think is what the model number is. Again, that's also 20 watts, and it's another tailwave 4-bay, 224.380. analog FM, and the coverage is generally the same. It's more from like Modesto to just north of Bakersfield. Because the higher, just because of the nature of RF, the higher the frequency, the little bit lower coverage. Back to the picture of the repeater, or I should have talked about this. So the tower is 160 foot to the top, and that's not counting the antennas at the top. It's kind of hard to see, but you can see one of the forebays there and another forebay right below it. So there's our 2-meter forebay right there and our 220 forebay right there. So we're pretty high on the tower. Our UHF repeater antenna is just to the north of the 220 forebay. It's a vertical, white vertical you can't see in that photo. So there's the 440 repeater and the duplexers. Again, that's another Yaesu Fusion machine. That's currently in multi or mixed mode, analogs C4FM Fusion. Again, that's 20 watts. And it's a little bit tighter pattern or a little smaller pattern than a 220 machine. Again, higher frequency, the shorter the range. So we're north of Merced to, again, further north of Bakersfield on our coverage. And now to our Clovis water tower system. It's on 443.225. The analog side is on 141.3 tone with a positive offset. And it's also in mixed mode P25 with a NAC code of 514. So for those of you who have P25, there's that available. It's running a Motorola Quantar. The space at that site is donated to us by the city of Clovis Police Department. The Motorola Quantar was also donated by the police or by city of Clovis. It used to be a Clovis fire repeater. So we've repurposed it and are using it. And it says 20 watts, but it is actually running closer to 100 watts output.
Whoa, nice.
It's on an Omni on top of the water tower. So here's a story about the antenna. We're not sure which antenna it is. We just know it was, again, it used to be a Clovis fire antenna. So it's one of those antennas on top of the tower. One of these days we'll figure that out. So the water tower, I believe, is 60 feet, 60, 70 feet. So again, that's a lot closer to the ground than being 3,500 feet and on top of a 160 foot tower. So the range is greatly reduced, but it's actually not bad for repeaters on the valley floor. Basically, you got good coverage from Madera to Reedley and out to Kerman on that machine. So it's surprised.
In the front country, the high country.
And of course, yeah, it'll play back in the high country, anything on the valley floor, again, line of sight. So, which we need to do a repeater study for that so we can kind of see where it plays, but I didn't have time to work on that. Here's a historic, when we first moved into the Mile High site, here's a picture of the machines we had back then. A couple open racks. We still had the 220 machine, but we had GE Master 2 circa 1980 repurposed commercial repeaters. And we've upgraded since then. So we have a few upgrades planned for the repeater site. We are looking at, we're currently in the process of obtaining some brand new commercial Kenwood NXR repeaters and Henry 100-watt amplifiers. So we're going to be able to run the repeaters at closer to 70 watts, probably 75 watts power output on the 2 meters and the 440 frequencies. And we'll continue to keep, because limited availability of 220 repeaters, we'll continue to use the ICOM machine. And then we've got the RLC Club 2 Deluxe repeater controller that we're going to link all the repeaters back together so we can have them all linked together. So that's coming up in the near future. Here is a photo back in September during the creek fire. Myself and Jim Vincent went up to the site to do some maintenance. As some of you may know, the repeater went off the air. Well, when the fire occurred, our repeater stayed on the air when most of Meadow Lakes went dark after all the generators ran out of fuel. So our repeater stopped operating after a few days, and we weren't sure what had happened. So once the area is deemed safe, we went up and we got permission from CDF, went through all their hoops and got permission to go up to the repeater site during the fire and check on the repeater and get it. And we were able to get it back on the air. So this is us driving up through Auberry, through the roadblocks. There's a lowboy coming back, must have been dropping off some heavy equipment. So it was pretty smoky. This is a photo, if anybody's familiar with Auberry Road. So Auberry Road right at the Mile High turnoff there on Bald Mountain Road. So this is right at the intersection facing north. The fire was pretty much stopped at Auberry at the north side of Auberry Road. It did spot over, take a couple of houses out there at Mile High, but majority of the houses, I'd say probably 95% of the houses at Mile High were saved. So this is looking to the south from the property owners there at the Mile High site. You can't really see how smoky it was. It was pretty smoky. It felt like standing over a campfire that you're burning wet pine needles. It was difficult to breathe, heavy smoke. But we were able to get up there and service the generator. What had happened was the generator had plenty of propane, but the generator was pretty old and some of the seals are kind of dry, so it was burning oil. So it ran low on oil, and the emergency shutoff or the safety shutoff kicked in and shut the generator down, so it wouldn't damage the generator. And so we replenished the oil. We added some since we've added some seal rejuvenator to the oil to help rejuvenate those seals, and we've added a supply of oil at the site. And during our near monthly service calls to the repeater site, we run the generator, and as we always have for a period of time, and check fluid levels. But on an annual basis, I think we're going to start adding seal rejuvenator into the oil, so we make sure that we keep those seals rejuvenated so that we don't have a problem like that again. Any questions on the CARP repeater site?
Yeah, it was just an emergency shut off due to lack of oil then?
Yeah, so there's a sensor on the generator that that notes when the oil's low, and it just shut the generator off. So all we had to do was add oil and fire the generator back up, and it took back off.
And the new repeaters are all going to be analog. There's not going to be any more mixed mode.
So we have a few issues with doing the mixed mode stuff. One, since CARP's main mission is to support public service events, and 95% of the people out there have analog radios, while there's digital modes and they may be more suitable for certain applications, not everybody has the same digital modes. So if we pick one mode, then we're going to alienate others. So for our mission critical repeater system, we're going to keep everything analog. for that purpose. We will in the future. We're going to continue to have we'll move the Fusion probably over to Bear and get that actually connected to the internet. And the other issue with the mixed mode machines is getting them to work properly with off-board repeaters to be able to link them together. So because we have a mix of equipment on the hill, so we have the ICOM 220 machine, to get that to interface with something like the Fusion machines, we have to use a third-party controller, like an older analog controller. And that's been problematic. And I've worked with Yaesu over the last year to try to get the Fusion machines to work reliably with the analog controllers. And we spent a considerable amount of money and a lot of time working on that. And we cannot get that to get those machines to reliably work with the controller, the analog controller. So this is one of the other reason why we're switching over to the Kenwood machines, because they are historically known to work well with off-board analog controller. Now, that doesn't mean in the future we might not go with another analog, because those machines actually, those NXR machines actually will do multi-mode Kenwood DMR. So those can do DMR. And they also have the options to do remote receivers. So that could be something we can look at in the future. But right now, again, our main focus is our mission, which is the public service stuff. And our sites tends to be a very good site for just analog machines. And they cover most of our events pretty well, with especially augmenting with some of the other machines around from the other groups.
Getting to be a very popular repeater.
Say again, Steve?
Those Kenwords are beginning to be a very popular repeater, taking price in.
Yeah. And the new stuff looks pretty hot. It's the specs look very similar to the Yaesu that we currently have up there. So I think our receiver specs are about the same. And again, like I said, there's future expandability. So I think we're making a good move. Any other questions, comments?
What's wrong with the one that's down, Rob?
The one that's down, I blew it up.
You blew it up. Okay.
Yeah, so this is one of the problems with interfacing those Yaesus with the analog controller. The interfacing circuitry is very sensitive to impedance mismatch. At least that's what Yaesu tells me. And they're kind of throwing their hands up saying it's not a good idea to hook it up to an analog controller. So without going through and designing a whole new interface, it's going to be a better all the way around. I'd go ahead and switch back to this, switch controllers to something that's going to work, or repeaters to something that's going to work out of the box.
Is that one at Mile High?
What's the one that's down? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's also at Mile High. Well, it was the machine I pulled off the hill to hook to the controller, and so I have it down here. And in fact, we actually blew up two machines. Actually, we didn't blow the machine up. We just blew the interfacing up, which causes the repeater not to work at all, which is kind of weird. So once you take out the external interface, the entire repeater stops working. So one of the repeaters was under warranty, so we sent that in, and we've had it repaired under warranty work. So we have a couple more of those Yaesu Fusion boxes. So those are sitting down here at my house right now, one working, one not. We're gonna And so the idea is to keep one or two of those fusions for use in the trailer and possibly put on a hilltop and then sell the others. So that's for going in the future.
Hey, Rob, what's the power output going to be off of the new repeaters?
So depending upon where we set the power out of the repeater itself using the amplifiers, we're going to be somewhere between 50 and 100 watts.
Will that increase our coverage, or is it just going to allow better communications within that area?
It'll likely increase the coverage. And that's so increasing the power is always a double-edged sword. Because as you increase your power out, you increase you desense the receiver more. So it's going to be we're going to have to experiment with the power out and see and find where we're going to find a happy medium kind of. So, if we run it at 50 watts, it'll be typically where we typically run repeaters. And we actually have a new set of cans that has a lot more reject. So on 2 meters, we will probably definitely be able to run probably closer to 75 watts with those, maybe even 100. So we'll have to wait and see how good a reject we can get out of those duplexers. Anything else?
Harvey, you must be hungry. You're eating pencils.
He's muted. You're muted.
I was writing something and while I'm listening, so it's a good place to hold a pencil in my mouth. Keeps
Definitely.
me from talking too much.
Well,
right.
that's too bad. Couldn't have worked up some sort of interface that could have worked off of the local speaker, and if there is one, a mic input, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's doable. Definitely that would be the easy way to do something, but you don't have any control. So the whole idea of using this other, I guess actually we could have used the off-board controller, but yeah. So even we could use the analog repeater controller and just hook it into the mic and speaker. We'd have to balance the audio for both. Yeah, it would be doable, but not or I don't. Again, it takes some engineering, and another issue with the Yaesu repeaters is you can't run them at full power out of 50 watts because of heating issues. So, that's why we're only running them at 25. So I guess we could have put the PAs behind those. But I think switching the Kenwoods is going to be a better way to go. All right, with that, I think we'll go and adjourn the meeting. Thank everybody for showing up tonight.